Alô, boa tarde. Espero que todo mundo esteja me ouvindo. Eu não estou vendo nem ouvindo ninguém, então espero que esteja todo mundo me escutando. Muito obrigado, é um prazer estar aqui falando nesse evento da CCBC, junto com a empresa Exeo. E é uma honra estar aqui. Então, o que eu vou fazer aqui com vocês, peraí, alguém está me dizendo que estou sem som. Ainda estou sem som? Está voltando o som? Não?
Sound is too low. E agora? O som melhorou? Eu acho que é do lado de vocês, a CCBC, se vocês puderem ajustar, por favor, tá? Ah, joia, melhorou. Obrigado. Então, vamos lá. É o mundo do Covid, né? Nós todos aí aprendendo a viver com essas tecnologias. Normalmente, esse evento estaria sendo numa sala, onde eu estaria na frente de vocês, a gente podia conversar um pouco, apertar as mãos no final do evento, mas, enfim, é o novo mundo que nós estamos todos nos adaptando, com os desafiozinhos da tecnologia, mas até que está funcionando super bem, né? Eu fico muito feliz de fazer parte dessa rede da Câmara de Comércio Brasil-Canadá. Eu estou baseado aqui em Toronto. Eu vou compartilhar minha tela com vocês e só para estruturar um pouquinho a mensagem, mas a ideia é fazer uma apresentação curta, de uns 10, 15 minutos. Na sequência, o pessoal da Exeo vai fazer a apresentação deles. E daí a gente pode fazer perguntas e respostas no final. Eu estou sendo relembrado aqui que o evento é em inglês, então depois, só para vocês verem que eu sou brasileiro mesmo, agora eu vou... I'm going to switch to English now to make sure we deliver the content of the presentation in English, okay? So if anything, I'm sure the moderators of the event will be able to connect here for any questions throughout the way. So let me start by sharing my screen with you then, okay? Just one second here. I'm just pushing the button, sharing the screen, and there we go. And I would appreciate the organizers just to give me a quick feedback that it's working as expected. Okay, so again, thank you very much. This presentation, I have to start pretty much letting you know who I am, right? And why I'm here. So I am originally from Brazil. I started with my background in a very technical way. So I studied mechanical engineering at Brazil's ITA, we call it in Brazil. So it's Aeronautic Institute of Technology. And my early years in my career were with Volvo Trucks in Curitiba in Brazil. But I did move to Canada 22 years ago, almost, when I came to study economics. And I came here to the University of Toronto to do my master's in economics. And after that, I became a manager of country risk for the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC. And I also became a professor at Ryerson University teaching country risk analysis. Okay, that was a very macroeconomic background. The main reason I do what I do today, though, and the reason I'm here talking to the group, is not my engineering or my economics background. That's kind of just complements a little bit. But most importantly is this experience as a commercial banker during 10 years, which is the last item here on your screen. So for 10 years, I was lending money to Canadian companies here in the Toronto region. And I did that in two institutions, first 5 years with Royal Bank and then with HSBC. That really helped me understand the business culture, the management styles, the types of financing that are quite different from what we see in Brazil. And more importantly, the 5 years that I spent with HSBC is when I started to learn the challenges that companies face when they try to do business in a different country. Because HSBC is a very international bank. And being a very international bank, they deal with very international clients. So a lot of our clients are international. So I saw a lot of their challenges. So that's why I do what I do today. And Lucalex is a company that has, we are 8 people in 3 countries. So we are 5 people in Canada, 2 in Brazil, and 1 in Portugal. This, in your screen, you should have now a timeline in the top from December 2015 up to now, roughly, with a lot of companies here. This just gives you an idea of the types of projects we've been involved in the last few years. So the length of the line represents for how long these companies were Lucalex clients. Lucalex is the name of my company, right? And the colors, they indicate more or less the stage that the process arrived at. And all the blue ones are companies with some type of relationship and operations in Canada now, right? And the others, they, at some point, they either decided not to come or they decided not to come yet, right? And so you see, we have a very wide variety of business types and company sizes. The company size here, I don't indicate by number of employees, but I talk a little bit in terms of how old the company was. So you see here, we have clients with 40 years in the market. And we had clients that were startups. So really, a company does not become a Lucalex client because they are of a specific sector or because they are of a specific size, okay? So this gives you a bit of an idea of different areas, different technologies, different sizes or ages of companies, and the different stages of all these projects. So it's 32 cases since 2015. And why companies come? You know, today the word internationalization is very fashionable. A lot of people talk about that, but what we realize is that actually when you talk internationalization, you're probably talking about 3 very different things. The first thing is, I want to sell to a different country. And there is kind of an older word that is export that people for some reason stopped using. They start to say, oh, I want to internationalize my company. When what they mean really is, I just want to sell abroad, meaning I don't want to do anything different. I don't want to establish a more robust operation, none of that. All I want is to sell exactly what I sell here to other markets. There's a word for that, export. In many cases, there's a desire to immigrate. You know, oh, I want to live in Canada. And, oh, sure, I have a company, and so because I have a company, then I'm going to take my company there. But that's, in many cases, is not the primary reason for the company to come to Canada. Sometimes it may or may not make sense that the company does business in Canada. But because the owner wants to immigrate, then he wants to bring the company. So what we find, though, is that the 32 clients we dealt with, they put these things together. There is actually a strategy. These companies have a personal motivation, is always good from the owner, but the company has a strategic motivation to be here. And in that case, Canada really, I believe, is the best place in the world. Everybody wants to export. Many people want to immigrate, but only a few see this strategy. And what unites all these clients, all these 32 companies we worked with in the last few years, are pretty much three blocks of reasons. They do want to access G7 markets. They want to sell in rich countries because the market is more sophisticated, it's more profitable. There's a whole number of reasons. And Canada is great because it's perfect to do a pilot. It does provide access to the United States market, and it does provide access to the European market from your base in Canada. The other reason companies may want to, for a strategic reason, to set up a presence in Canada is that they want to be inserted in this very sophisticated research and development innovation ecosystem that Canada has. And the third reason is that they want to leverage their brand. Many companies believe that when they show the market that they are in Canada, they get better margins, they get better penetration in the market, and they even have a very favorable situation in attracting, retaining talent, and even negotiation with potential investors. So what's the typical story when somebody decides, oh, sure, I do want to take my company to Canada? Typically, there's two big blocks of reasons everybody knows they need to address. The first one, oh, I want to have leads. And yes, that's true, you do. You need to know who are your potential clients. And typically people say, oh, I want somebody to open doors in Canada for me. And that's great, sure, it helps, right? And also, you need information. Oh, I need to know how things work in Canada. I need to know about the legislation, laws, and taxes, and operationally how I open a company and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, though, it's not enough. If just having a lot of names, a lot of contacts of potential clients, and understanding how things work in Canada, if these two things were the only things you needed, this is the situation we would see in the majority of cases. We would see in one side the Brazilian company and the other side of the Canadian market, and at some point in the near future, they come together and we start to do business. What we unfortunately see in real life way more often is what this red line shows, where there is a bit of a false positive in the sense that it looks like things are going the right direction. Sorry. But things become kind of stationary for a while, and then even they start to diverge after some time. And this, I would dare to say, from my experience here at Lucalex for the last many years and my days at HSBC, I would say this represents 95 to 98% of the cases, the red light. Only about 2 to 5% of the cases stayed on the dotted line. So what Lucalex does is we close this gap. We make sure that we help you see what you need to do to make sure that you will be successful, as opposed to you trying many things that don't work and you don't even know why they don't work. And you try to, maybe you even identify the incorrect reasons why something does not work. So how do we do that? Because of basically two things. The way you build trust in Canada is very different from the way you build trust in Brazil. In Canada, your reputation is not enough. Just say, oh, but I'm a big company, or my clients are these and all. That is not enough for somebody to be interested to talk to you. You need to address a very specific need that your market has. Okay, I am the absolutely best in this because, and you need to be ready to have a lot of becauses to explain why what you sell is the best fit in the Canadian market. The second block of reasons that is in the mind of the Brazilian business person is that the hardest part of doing business in Brazil typically has to do with the operation. It's the tax code, it's the employee legislation, it's clients that don't pay you, or regulations that change very quickly. So Brazilian businesses are very concerned about the operational side and how to make sure the business works. And that's not the hardest part of doing business in Canada at all. That part actually is very easy in Canada. What's very hard in Canada is to compete and how to make sure you differentiate versus so many other great options that your potential client has. Because everybody has great quality and very competitive price. So you cannot compete because you have great quality and good price. That you're just another one, right? So how you compete, that is the challenge in Canada. So the combination of these two gaps, the trust gap and the hardest part of doing business gap, is that typically we see in those companies that stay in the dotted line, an inverted mentality. The approach is the opposite of what it should be, in the sense that the company keeps talking about, look how good I am, look how good I am, look how good I am, as opposed to showing the Canadian market, look how perfect I am for you, look how perfect I am for you. So the focus is you, not I am, not how good I am. We're going to get to more details later in the question and answers. So the big decisions here and where we get into the strategy and what has to be done, let's assume the company wants these three things. They do want to sell to rich countries. They also want to be part of a very rich and sophisticated and great innovation ecosystem that gives your company a lot of money for you to do innovation. And you also want to have a leverage in your brand. Everybody kind of wants these three things, but it's a matter of degree. If you think it's just nice, oh yeah, it would be nice to sell to these countries. Oh, it would be nice to do a little more innovation. It would be nice to have a better brand. You're going to be doing these things that are very different than if you think these things are vital. Say, oh, absolutely, I need to access these other markets. I need to do more innovation in a more favorable environment. And I do need to do more to leverage my brand. If you think it's just nice, typically we see two approaches. The company does that from home, from Brazil. When COVID passes, people will be able to travel again, come to trade missions and attend roundtables and B2B meetings and all that kind of stuff, and attend international trade shows. Or it's very common these days that there is somebody in Canada that you already know, because a lot of newcomers came to Canada in the last 2 to 4 to 5 years. So there's a lot of people that arrived in Canada in the last few years that kind of are still kind of available to help you try to do your business in Canada. This proposition works great because there's three little symbols there. It represents a little risk. It does not cost a lot of money, but it is a huge uncertainty. And it's okay because it's just nice. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine. It was just nice. Very different story, though, when it does have a strategic importance, because then the big question in your head becomes, oh my God, how do I do this? Who do I send there? Do I have that spare talent? And how do I make that operational? Because when you send this key person, it will cost you a lot of money. It will represent potentially a big risk, especially if the person that is coming to Canada does have a vital role in the business in Brazil right now. The fact that they're not there anymore, they're now in Canada, that creates all sorts of problems, all sorts of risks with clients, with employees, with investors and all that. But you do reduce the uncertainty. So absolutely, you need to send a key person here if you're serious about your business in Canada. And that's what Lucalex steps in. We help you get there, but in a smart way so that you avoid to step on all these banana peels that exist around the floor. And the way we do this is focusing on 4 big dimensions here to your left side. I'm not going to get into all the details here on the page. You're going to get a copy of the presentation later. But on the left-hand side, you have 4 dimensions. The first 2 dimensions quantify the potential and access to market. They are what I call market dimensions. And look at that percentage number there. That represents the weight of your attention, how much of the work has to be in that area, roughly. And it's 80% is the market. And it's only about 20% it's the infrastructure of the business, which are the 2 layers below, which is finance and risk management and the implementation. So really, if you want to bring your business to Canada, want to come here, you need to really understand the market, but not from what you think from your biases from doing business in Brazil. You need to talk to Canadians. You need to get the feedbacks from the local market if they think what you want to offer makes sense in the way you want to offer, or what are the modifications, the changes that you need to implement to be successful. Because remember, you will need to generate cash flow in Canada to pay for all these efforts. And that's pretty much the message that I wanted to convey to the group. And in this journey, a fundamental part is, of course, what can you do once you decide to come here? What are the best ways to come? So that's why it's fantastic to have a company like Exeo that can talk to us and to you and explain all the different options. They have a lot of experience with bringing foreign people to Canada, and they see a lot of things that work very well, and they see a lot of challenges that don't go as well. So again, the goal today is to make sure you have access to this information so you can prepare and you can avoid falling into the same pitfalls that people fell before you. Okay, and with that, Laurence, I think I'm gonna pass it on to Exeo. Thank you. I think you may still be on mute. And I think I'm still sharing my screen, which I have to stop doing, right?
Perfect. Okay, give me a minute. Can you hear me well? Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. Is the volume working? Ah. So I just want to make sure. Hi, is everybody can hear me? Perfect. So perfect, that's great. So sorry, I'm not, so just a little technical issue. I'm glad, so I think I was able to share the screen. So I work for Exeo Law Firm. I'm one of the partner. I'm a Canadian immigration attorney. So our firm is doing US and Canadian immigration. However, today we're gonna speak mostly about Canadian immigration. We're a boutique law firm. We're based in the Old Montreal in Quebec, Canada. And like I said, so we have a US attorney and Canadian attorney. And what we do, we assist Canadian, US and foreign businesses to navigate in the immigration system, the Canadian immigration system, to help them to realize their project in Canada. So what we do is only immigration application, because Canada is actually, we have a great reputation of welcoming people, which is true, but we also have a very strict immigration system with a lot of regulation, a lot of different type of work permit, and a lot of requirement. Okay, I'm gonna let me try this. Perfect. I hope you can see the screen a bit better. So today we're going to speak about the work permit and the business visit, how to come and come to Canada. I really like what Marcelo mentioned, like previously, the slides about the strategy when there's a personal desire to immigrate to Canada, but there's also a strategy for the company to be able to come to Canada and settle. Both of them needs to work together. So sometimes if you have a personal interest to immigrate to Canada and you're the owner or you're one of the a business partner of a company, but the company don't really have any interest to start the whole business in Canada, it makes it more difficult. What people have to know is when we apply for work permit or for any type of immigration strategy, there's going to be a lot of requirement. There's a lot of steps that must be done previously, financial steps, corporate steps. There's going to be verification by the immigration authorities, by Service Canada. So it's not only, we're submitting a business plans and we want to send a few of our managers to Canada and that's it, because there's going to be follow-up. They're going to grant you limited time to be able then to show that you really did something, and they also want to make sure you're going to meet the requirement of the program. So quickly, because there's a lot of different kind of way to immigrate to Canada, especially when you're a Brazilian company who wish to start something in Canada, or a Brazilian entrepreneur who wish to start something. So I'm just going to cover the one who I thought would be the more interesting for everybody today. Whoops, okay, I'm sorry for that. I think the screen, okay, so the first one, I just think I must apologize for the screen. Sorry. Okay, I think that there's a bit of issue with the screen, but I'm going to keep going on with the business after sales. If you give me a second, I'm just going to also have a technician to come and help. Perfect. Perfect. So we're going to start with the business visitor and after sales services. A few things you have to know is you don't necessarily need to have a work permit to come and do to try and do business in Canada. Someone's going to come in for a while just to fix the screen. So because I'm not currently on my computer because we have some construction in the building. So the first thing to know is it's possible to come to Canada only as a business visitor. This is very important because you're not, a business visitor can come to have meetings, to train people. They can also like travel back and forth. They can assign clients. They're going to meet with people. You don't need a work permit for that because you're not entering the Canadian labor system. You're actually, I'm very sorry. I'm trying to fix the screen at the same time. Okay, so this definitely, so they're not entering the Canadian labor market system. They're definitely just coming for after-sales services. So for example, if you're a Brazilian company and you're selling a machinery or some equipment to Canadian customer, well, the after sales, it can include the installation of the machine. It can include also the training of the Canadian customer for them to be able to use the machine. So in this case, it's after sales services. So you do not need a work permit. So you can sell your expert and your technician to come and install the machine, to also to come and install the machine and to train the people and also to repair the machine as long as it's covered by the warranty. So in all those cases, this is a great way to come to Canada pretty fast. Currently, people have to know that despite COVID-19, it is possible to come to do business, to do after-sales services. These are part of the current travel ban exemption, where if you're a Brazilian company and you did sell a machine to a Canadian customer and it needs to be installed, you need to train or you need to repair the machine and it's covered, you can still enter in Canada despite the travel ban. Now I'm going to speak about the work permit, which is like probably one of the more interesting things in Canada. And this is really where it's related to the option when you have a personal desire also and the company strategy to really start a business in Canada. So this is not necessarily when you only export. It's obviously you want to settle in Canada, you want to open an affiliate, you want to open a subsidiary. So one of the great programs Canada did is Global Talent Stream. This program exists since 2015, and the key word is IT, tech. So Canada wanted to be more attractive, and to be able to bring faster foreigner talent and to also help the company to be able to set up the business in Canada. So this is already been recognized that we don't have enough. There's an insufficient domestic labor supply. We need people to come in Canada as fast as possible. It's very for a 12 specific occupation. You have the list on the current slide. So as you can see, it's really like you have, it goes to visual effect, to a database analyst, a producer, video games, you have computer network technician, computer engineering. So if your company is doing already that in Brazil and you want to open a Canadian affiliate or subsidiary or branch, this is the kind of foreign worker you would be able to bring pretty fast in Canada, because the processing time is fast. And this will also be the best way. And also the consular process is pretty fast too. And normally can take months. With this specific program, it takes a few weeks. With COVID-19 right now, it's still possible to apply that and to be approved and to come to Canada and start the business. A good thing about this program too, I need to mention, is they're gonna ask you to show financial capacity to realize the project, to pay the salary of your foreign worker, of your Brazilian worker that you want to send to Canada. Well, obviously you won't be able to demonstrate already a Canadian tax declaration, but you'll be able to submit letter from your lawyer or your accountant in Brazil saying that the headquarters in Brazil has the financial capacity to support the project. Another great program is very specific to the province of Quebec. So Quebec is very unique in terms of, like, they can select their own immigrant, temporary or permanent, while it's not necessarily the case in the rest of Canada. But for the work permit, this is very unique to the province of Quebec. So if you would like to settle in Montreal or in Quebec City, for example. So Quebec has before COVID-19, and it's still the case right now, we have a huge labor shortage. So there's like a long list who's been reviewed every year. Right now, there's more than 200 occupations in all the different fields. And this program actually allows you to also apply for work permit to bring your foreign worker. They go super wide, from scientists to medical personnel to marketing experts, manager, director, administrative personnel. It's very a great program. And you don't need, your company that would be settled in Canada don't need to show that they were not able to recruit Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada, because what they're going to be able to use that program and to avoid all the advertising, all those requirements. So this is also a great program. What I need to say about those two work permits, the global talent stream and the one who's called simplified process, is they have great processing time for sure. And also, like I said, it's going to allow your foreign worker to come. But there's also one of the requirements which is important, is both programs, you're going to have to show that your Brazilian foreign worker, which is highly skilled, well, you have to show that they're going to train Canadian citizens, they're going to train permanent residents. So this is part of the requirement, is to make sure you're not just going to bring a Brazilian worker in Canada, but you also going to make sure to recruit Canadian citizens, recruit a permanent resident of Canada, and obviously also train them and transfer the knowledge to them. Now I want to speak about one of my favorite work permit, especially when we're working with a foreign company, is the intra-company transferee. There's one for to immigrate to Canada. There's also one for the US. It's pretty similar. So this is a very great program too. So you need obviously to open a subsidiary or an affiliate of a branch in Canada. We need to be able to show there's a control. So normally, in an ideal scenario, the Brazilian company will control and own the Canadian subsidiary at 100%, or you have a group of individuals who own the Brazilian company, let's say two individuals, 50-50% of the company. Well, they're going to do the same thing in Canada. They're going to own also the company 50-50. In this case, we really have an affiliate company, subsidiary, or a parent or a branch. And then we can have mobility from Brazil to Canada, but also to Canada to Brazil. What you have to know when you do that type of work permit is you cannot transfer anyone in the Brazilian company. When it's a Canadian startup, you really have to start by sending your, like Marcelo mentioned, your key personnel, your key manager who's going to be able to start the Canadian business and recruit Canadian, and also and eventually also recruit other manager in Canada. So You can only send manager under this type of work permit, and also very high skilled worker. And you can renew for a long time the work permit. Both companies need to have an exchange of goods and business. Obviously, the creation of employment in Canada is important. This is something we often have to remember and to repeat a lot, is like, it cannot be only created just to send a lot of, let's say, Brazilian to Canada. And otherwise, at one point, what's going to happen is the work permit application will be refused at the renewal, or at one point, or there's going to be verification. And they're going to ask, well, did you hire also Canadian citizens? The goal also is to have benefits for Canada. This is always a part of the component of that type of work permit. And benefits is often with creation of employment. So this is a very good work permit, and we use it a lot too. And this is a great vehicle for a startup in Canada. Now, this one, I wanted to talk about those two quickly. They're very interesting, but this is not really for Brazilian company. It's more for Brazilian business people who wants to start a project in Canada, who has nothing to do with a Brazilian company. So this is the case. You have two case scenario. You can have a Brazilian entrepreneur who wish to start a business in Canada from scratch. This is the entrepreneur work permit. He needs to own the business. He needs to have a solid business plan. He needs to also have benefits for the Canadian market, which is creation of employment. So that's one of the possibility. And another one is when you want to buy a Canadian business. When you want to buy a Canadian business, the LM, the owner-operator work permit and the entrepreneur work permit are very good for that. The owner-operator are good for all the provinces except the province of Quebec. In the Quebec regulation, we cannot use that type of work permit. So in this scenario, you're coming and you're buying a Canadian business. I need to point out that there's been a few changes recently. So you cannot buy necessarily a Canadian startup. You have to buy a company who's been existing for a few years, already have Canadian employees, and you need to be able to show that you're going to maintain the employment and you're going to create more employment. While the work permit entrepreneur, you can really start from scratch the business with 0 employee, and then you're going to have to show that you're going to hire people over the next years. So those two work permits are very great for, I would say, business people who wants to start a separate company in Canada. There's a few things to mention. Is I already said the creation of employment, but the importance of the business plan is always a key word. It's a key word for this type of work permit and also the intra-company transferee program, because you need to show that you did your market study, you have financial projection, you have hiring projection. So this is very important. And this is probably actually resonated with what Marcelo just said before, like how much you must be prepared in your study before settling in Canada and applying for immigration. I wanted to talk also about those two programs, which are also great to come to Canada and start a business. It's called the Federal Startup Visa and the Quebec Entrepreneur Program. One is for, so the Federal Startup Visa is to start a business anywhere in Canada, except in the province of Quebec. Quebec is always special. And the Quebec Entrepreneur Program is to start a business in the province of Quebec. So what is great about these programs is that it's a direct path for the permanent residents. So this is very unique in Canada. There's not a lot of a program like this around the world. So whilst having you're having a business project in Canada, and then it will allow you to apply for the permanent residence. So this is very unique. This is where I think when Marcelo was mentioning that sometimes you have the personal wish to immigrate to Canada and start a business, this actually would be very great. If you have permanent residence intention, you want to have the Canadian citizenship. So, you know, first it's the permanent residence and then you apply for the citizenship later on, but these are great programs for that. So what you have to retain is it's a path for permanent residence in Canada. You can come here and obviously bring all your family members with you. You need to have an innovative idea. This is super important. You're normally going to work with a Canadian incubator for your business project. The business plan is, again, a key document showing the study market, the financial projection, the hiring projection. And there's no minimal investment, which is great. It needs to just make sense with actually the project you want to set up in Canada. So very good program, very unique to apply and obtain the permanent residence while setting a beautiful business project in Canada. And this is probably my favorite slide of this conference, is managing expectation. So I'm going to refer also to Marcelo's presentation. He showed a slide showing that, you know, to prepare all the pre-step before coming to Canada, the study market and the preparation, it takes a few weeks. It's also true for the immigration application. People have to understand that, yes, you need a business plan, but you need much more than that. In all the work permit, except the last one, the one for the permanent residence, all the other I mentioned, and most of the work permit in Canada, you need to already be incorporated in Canada. You need to have your Canada revenue agency number. You need to have opened a Canadian bank account and have transfer money, and the money there will be to pay the salary of the foreign worker from Brazil that you want to bring to Canada. So there's a lot of steps to do before just applying for an immigration application, which are mostly corporate steps, financial steps. So this is where we have to manage people, like when they come to us and they say, oh, we have an idea, we want to start a business in Canada, and we would like to be in Canada by the end of December 2020. We always need to say, well, there's going to be a few steps. And you know, the business plan needs to be impeccable. We have to submit the application also to the immigration authorities once it's done. And there's sometimes weeks of processing time if we have a fast track work permit. But if it's a more regular processing time, it can take a few months. So one of the mistakes before the travel ban, before COVID-19, is people were coming to Canada under visitor status and start working even before having been authorized by the Canadian authorities. This is something to absolutely to avoid, because the Canadian authorities are very, very strict. And if you get caught working before being authorized to work in Canada, you could actually be declared inadmissible for Canada for a few years, which is not a great plan. What we often see too is people already buy a house in Canada and open a Canadian bank account because they want to come to Canada, but then they're coming at us saying, well, now I need to start a business. We always recommend to do the opposite and start working on the business project first, the corporate financial steps. Then you have the immigration team coming to put all this together, reviewing, making suggestions, submitting the application, and represent you in front of the Canadian authorities. And I also wanted to mention a key word, hiring local talent. This, we're never going to stretch this enough. It's so important to create employment, because all the type of work permit we discussed are really like based on the idea that Canada is going to have some benefits for you to open your business here. And the benefits is often by creation of employment. Obviously, innovative project, IT, all these are benefits to Canada, but we also want to make sure there's going to be job for Canadian citizens. So this is very, very important. But it is possible, obviously, to bring your team first, at least your key personnel, your key managers, maybe your key skill worker. But at one point, you need to hire Canadian citizen and permanent residents to be able to bring more Brazilian worker in your Canadian business. So this is a key element. Perfect. So I think I'm gonna give the up to Marcelo.
Oh, that was excellent, Laurence. You know, it's so clear and so important, because one thing I want to mention, right? Because I'm originally from Brazil, so I know the culture, I know some things. Like one thing that's very strict, you mentioned that several times in your presentation about how strict Canadian authorities are in the government. First thing is that the Canadian government has excellent systems. So that means the Revenue Canada systems talks to the immigration system very well and everything. So like suddenly you start to open bank accounts and have money flow through your account. Suddenly the immigration department learns about that too. They start to learn. So it's really hard to try to do something here that you should not be doing and then expect later, because they're going to find out. So it's a very well integrated, you know, they respect privacy and all that, but every time you are asking something, you have to sign a declaration at the end of the document that says all the information that I'm supplying here is true. And perjury is a crime. So when you say that, yes, I didn't ever work here, but then there's some evidence that you did because there's some money flowing through your accounts, paid by your employer or whatever, then that becomes evidence. So that's really tricky. So my advice here as a Brazilian living in Canada for almost 22 years is that in Canada, we don't have those things that are very common in Brazil. For example, contrato de gaveta. What that means, Laurence? It means like a drawer contract. This is the official contract, but between me and my other shareholders, I have a drawer contract, meaning this is what I really mean to be valid, but this is the one that I registered officially. We don't have that type of thing in Canada, you know, like everything that is true is written and should be written. And everything that's written is expected to be complied. So what you wrote in your business plan, of course, oh, but a business plan, it's impossible to know if it's going to be true. Sure, within reason, things happen. And you may have a little variation, plus 10% here, 5%, but it cannot be a fiction, right? What you wrote about what's your business plan, what you want to do, it has to be what you're really doing. You're going to be writing what you're actually doing. You don't produce a business plan just to get the approval for the startup visa. That's a very, very big mistake. You do never write a document thinking, oh, that's just what the authorities want. Let me write that anything here, I get the approval, and then later I'll figure out. Don't ever do that. Right, Laurence? You're a lawyer, right?
So yes, definitely. It is true that especially what is the most important is, let's say you're sending a foreign worker from Brazil to Canada. They want to make sure that the job position you say he will do, this is exactly what he's going to do. The location are accurate and the wage. They want to make sure also that you're not going to pay the foreign worker less than what a Canadian citizen should be having for that same type of position for the same years of experience. This is very important for the Canadian authority because there's been some abuse in the past, so they became very strict about that. However, on the business plan, what I do like is they know that sometimes in the reality, it's not going to happen exactly like the business plan. But they want to see that you're in a good, like genuine. It's, you know, you did everything generally. It was not in bad faith. And even if you, let's say the first year doesn't go like you expected and you were not able to hire a Canadian citizen, it is possible to renew the work permit and we can explain what happened. You know, the first year was difficult, COVID-19 happened. So let's say my restaurant didn't work out because, you know, they closed all the restaurants. Yeah, obviously they're gonna understand that and they're gonna be able to renew and give you a chance for another 2 years to realize your project. It's just that there's kind of a limitation to the chance they're gonna give you for you to hire Canadian citizen, yes.
Yeah, so very true, right? I mean, reality happens. So there are deviations from plan. That's very true, but it can never be that kind of, oh, the dog ate my homework kind of excuse, right? It's like people will be very sensitive to a reason that is rooted in reality versus something that starts to smell fishy. They will dig deeper trying to get that, right? So Claudia, Andres, I don't know if there are some questions that are coming here for Laurence or for me. Sorry, yes. So what should we do? Should we, can you, is there somebody like prioritizing the questions, what we should be answering here, or how does it work? Be happy to tackle those.
I see there's a few questions. I think the first question starts with Joao Castro. Let me see. Yeah, first question. That's great. So, and I just want to say I apologize for the technical issue because I'm not on my computer. I'm on a Mac and I'm a PC girl, so that explains a bit what happened. So the question is that, are there simplified process in other provinces too, where you don't need to show that there's a labor shortage and you can apply without doing recruitment? Well, this is very unique to Quebec. So the exception for that, that you don't need to do recruitment to show that you try to recruit Canadian, are the global talent stream, the one for really tech sector, and also the work permit for entrepreneur, intra-transferee company. The one I discussed, actually, the presentation, were all without recruitment effort to show and without trying to, keep all the resume and the interview. So this is, I try to cover those ones because normally when we have to go to show the recruitment and this and that, it tends to freak out a bit the employer because the processing time is at least 9 months to a year. So that's already a big no. And then like just right now with COVID-19, a lot of people lost their job. So it's going to be very hard to show that there's no Canadian who can do the job. So this is why today I discussed only work permit, that you don't need to recruit and show a recruitment advertising.
Perfect. Laurence, I don't know if you saw here, we have the WhatsApp group with the questions there. That's where it seems that most of them have to do with immigration. One thing I want to which is not surprising, one thing I want to mention while Laurence finds the questions there is that really, the most important thing really is like the business has to be viable, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, if you're coming to Canada immigrating in a business category, it has to be a true business. You're never going to do something just in the paper, right? What you're putting in the paper is what you want to create. If you're promising to create jobs, so that should be your true goal. Is not something that you put in the application just because you thought that's what made it easier to get approved, right? So I would say really focus on the business first. Where is your cash flow going to come from? How you're going to be able to pay the bills? And then immigration falls into place under very competent guidance from Laurence. But like without a true business, everything becomes a bit of a smoke and mirrors. Let's try to see this trick here to see if I get my visa. And in the end, these things don't work. That would be my take on it.
So true, because it's important to already have a clear idea what you're going to do and not have 20 different ideas and projects, and then you're coming, and then it's almost you need to really do your homework, what you want to do in Canada, and you have the financial need. And this actually I will go with the question. There's a question about the minimum investment that the Canadian government's requiring. Well, most of the work I discussed today, there's no minimum investment, which is great. But it has to be, if you want to do a business in Canada that is going to start 20,000 to start, you need to have for 20,000. If your project is very ambitious and it's very big, and then you're going to have let's say you're going to create 200 jobs in Canada, then obviously your financial capacity to start a project needs to be bigger. Like it needs to be viable, it needs to be logical when we look at the whole, the paperwork, the financial capacity and what you want to do in Canada. I would add also that it's important if you want to bring Brazilian to work in your Canadian startup, you need to be able to show that you have at least the financial capacity to pay their salary. So that's one thing. I see there's a question about the self-employed. Well, I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but the self-employed work permit is a bit like the entrepreneur work permit. So that I discussed and I mentioned, this is actually the same subcategory in the immigration regulation. And it is possible to be a self-employed and submit a project. But again, it needs to be kind of logical. So it could be a lawyer who is a lawyer in Brazil and wants to start a practice in Canada as a self-employed, that will work. But we need to also to show that you have a business plan, that there's going to be benefits for Canada, maybe not employment, but maybe in your expertise is so well known that it's going to be some benefits for the Canadian citizen. So this is something I could mention about the self-employed work permit. I have a question for Marcelo before. I think it would be interesting because let's say I'm a Brazilian company and I want to start a project in Canada. When they should contact you, like when they like nudge, is there like, do you recommend like a few months in advance? At what stage, you know, a company wish to do business in Canada should come and contact you?
That's a good question. I don't think it's never too early or too late. And the reason I say that is because we have clients that look for us in different stages. So to give an example, I have an individual that was an executive of one of the largest, he was a vice president at one of the largest banks in Brazil. And he had an idea of a specific thing he wanted to create with a specific technology, and he wanted to do that startup in Canada. So before he quit his big bank job in Brazil, he hired us to look for the potential path ahead so he could make a more informed decision. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, we have somebody who was in Canada already for 3 years, banging their head against the wall and things not working, and, you know, with a lot of misalignment of the way of doing business. And they hired us so we could finally shorten that learning curve and get more clarity, because it can be overwhelming. You come here and there are so many options, there are so many paths, and you think you have your network because you attend events, and, you know, especially before COVID, you could go to a cocktail here and lunch and learn that and all that kind of stuff. Canadians are very nice to engage. You're going to get a lot of business cards, but you're going to get a very little traction in most of the cases, because people expect to have a very tangible reason why they should engage with you. And you need to kind of prepare that ahead of time. So I would say from before coming to even you're already here for a few years and you want to consolidate that presence, I mean, we can talk all across the board here.
Yeah. I also want to mention, because I think it's important, you mentioned earlier, Marcelo, in your presentation, that people who only want to do export. In this case, people like, that's something we get a lot as an immigration practitioner. People want work permit, they want to be able to live in Canada, bring their family, but the project is only exportation. This normally, like, if you're not going to really create a business here and hire a Canadian, again, this is a bit difficult, because this is normally, it's like real estate investment. When people say, I just want to buy a house and property, it's not going to create a lot of employment for Canadian citizens. So I tend normally to you know, find a better business project that will be more interesting for the Canadian society, the authority.
Yeah. I have a notice here that we can go over 5 minutes here. If you're available, Laurence, I can make 5 more minutes here before we wrap up.
There's a question on the chat regarding the labor market impact assessment from Louise. I think it's someone who is a bit familiar with that. So the labor market impact assessment is when the Service Canada is actually granting the Canadian company the authorization to hire a foreign worker. This is the global talent stream I mentioned earlier, and the Quebec simplified process. And you have the same one with the owner-operator. When you own the business, you buy a Canadian business. Yes, you always need a job offer. Actually, all the work permit I discussed, and you have to understand, there's a clerical step that you need a job offer for that. And the job offer needs to be very clear. The salary, the wage needs to be, make sure it's in accordance with what a Canadian citizen will do for the same job. So you always need a job offer, even when you own the business. So it's kind of like you're making a job offer to yourself. It's the same thing for self-employed. It looks like you're making a job offer to yourself, but the Canadian authorities will hold on to you to the commitment you said. So if you're self-employed and you say, I'm going to pay myself 75,000 Canadian dollars per year, well, you will be verified by the Canadian authorities, and they're going to ask you, did you really pay yourself 75,000 Canadian dollars? So this is something to take into consideration.
Yeah, and there are no ifs or buts, right? You cannot say, no, but I don't need the 75 because I have my revenue from my other existing business, so let me pay only 40,000. Because the key is what Laurence said here, that you have to pay yourself the same salary that you would pay a Canadian. I mean, it has to be market rates. So you cannot use that thing, no, I have my money from the other business, that the dividends that I take. So in order to minimize my cash flow, Canadian dollar is too expensive, so I'm only going to pay me half of the salary here. You cannot. You have to pay what a Canadian employee would make, right? And right, Laurence, I think that, yeah. So Laurence, I think we are running out of time here, and one last thing I would like to mention is, like, I don't know how many people are in this session listening, but it has been organized by the Chamber of Commerce, by the CCBC, and I'm very fortunate to work very closely with the CCBC. Their expertise is really unparalleled. They provide a lot. They have a whole area of market intelligence that they understand very well how to give you that good overview of what to expect in Canada. So if your company is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, this is one of the services that you can have access to, right? And so I would encourage very strongly to stay close to the Chamber, attend their events, their seminars, and even become a member if you want, because when you're serious about doing your business plan in a proper way, you certainly can leverage their resources in terms of getting a more detailed marketing understanding of Canada. And with that, Laurence, I guess we have the final words.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure. So if some people have more specific questions regarding immigration, I saw a few that were more specific. Feel free to send us an email. We can make a preliminary call for that. And thank you also to the Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity. And I apologize again for the technical issue. Obviously, I had someone coming during the conference to fix it because I'm not a Mac user. And but thank God it was fixed, so I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And a lot of questions about the presentations. I believe we made that the PDF of the presentations available. So happy to share that, right? And I think Sandrine, not Sandrine, sorry, Laurence, you also, in the end of the presentation, you have the coordinates how to find you, right? Your phone number, your email, and all that. I have the same. In the end of my presentation, there's the email there. I'm happy to connect. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
tem mais aviso, né? Não tem mais aviso, né?